Take just a second to get started. And I'll start sharing my screen so you guys, and I can introduce myself to you. All right, we are recording. Give me just a moment to share my screen. Move things around. Cool. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our informational meeting about Elevated Digital Learning Academy. This is a new school, and it's our inaugural year for Elevated Academy. And Elevated Academy will offer daily live online instruction, personalized learning for all of our students, and a social emotional support and lessons to help support the whole child. I am Kelly Martin. I am the site administrator, principal for Elevated Academy. Just a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's degree in women's studies from UC Davis. I hold my multiple subject credential. I taught for 8 years at Tahoe Valley. I have a master's degree in educational technology as well as my administrative credential. I also hold a lot of certifications that I've spent a lot of time and energy working on just to make myself more knowledgeable. I have both Google level 1 and 2 teacher certifications as well as trainer, which means I'm allowed to train on Google products for anybody that asks for them. I'm also leading edge blended and online learning certified, which means I am certified to teach students online. And I've also presented at a bunch of conferences nationally. So I have quite the background in educational technology and online learning. I also have with me Diana D'Angelo, who will be the school secretary for us. She's going to help moderate. So again, if you have questions throughout, go ahead and put them in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we'll go over and answer any questions. So there's a few things with Elevated and the new educational code that shifted a little bit this year after the pandemic in March. So there's now new required minutes. They've actually reduced the required minutes for the 2020-21 school year. So you can see what the breakdown is of the required minutes. So for TK and K, it's 180 minutes a day. First through third, it's 230, and fourth through 8, it's 240. This is not the amount of live instruction they would need to receive. This also includes live instruction and including independent work. So with Elevated, your TK kid or your kindergarten student would not be online in front of a screen for 180 minutes every day. This again is both the online time, which is their live instruction, as well as their independent work time. And the goal of Elevated is to be very personalized and flexible for families. So students will have a daily live interaction with teacher for instruction, progress monitoring, and socialization activities. So getting to know their peers and their classmates. And the socialization at this point will be done via video conferencing. Once everything sort of calms down a little bit with COVID-19 and if we're able to meet in small groups, then that's something that we could look at doing, meeting 5 to 6 kids, doing lessons that way as well. The schedule will include a regular daily schedule by subject. We'll get into that a little bit further. So one of the big questions we've been having is about a possible daily schedule. So what the day would look like. So again, this is just a possible elementary schedule. And at this point, the teachers who will be all Lake Tahoe Unified School District teachers, they've all applied. That application process closed yesterday. And I want their feedback on this too, but in order to answer some parent questions, so I just wanted to give families an idea of what a day could potentially look like. So kind of looking through the daily schedule, the green are live sessions. So those are times when students would be online with a teacher. And the blue are sort of independent work times. And the gray are just break times or movement times. So it is one of those, we also want to make it really flexible. So while those green sessions are live, the teachers would be recording those sessions. So if your student wasn't able to make it at that time, they can watch it at a later time during the day. So Again, we want to make this flexible and work for all of our families, but also give parents the support that they need and the teacher support so that they can work with their child. So the bulk of the teaching is on the credentialed teacher and not on the family. You'll also notice on the schedule on Tuesday, there's a one-on-one check-in time, and I think that's really valuable and vital for our elementary students for the teachers to really get to know the kids. While it's a little more difficult through a screen, it definitely is possible. And the morning meeting every morning is another social emotional check-in for families and students to check in with their peers and their teacher, just to build some sense of community within their virtual class. Now, this is a possible 6 through 8 schedule. Again, it follows the same color coding. So the green are the live synchronous sessions and the blue are asynchronous or the independent work time. And then there's the gray, which is more of the breaks or lunch movement, what have you. And again, as I said, any of those green sessions will be recorded, so a student could come back at a later time and watch those sessions, and we will be able to monitor that those were actually watched so we can account for attendance in our system, so we make sure that everybody is participating and doing their part in their education. One thing I do like to point out on this possible 6 through 8 schedule is that 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock time. So that's a Socrative seminar or collaborative learning. That may be a time where your student is working in a small group with their peers or with their teacher. And they may not be online for that full hour, but there may be a chunk of that time where they are working with somebody else so that they feel comfortable and confident in their content area. And we also want to make sure that we are meeting those required minutes for grades 6 through 8. So there'll be several different routines and things that we'll be using through Elevated. Last year during our remote learning situation in the spring, most of our teachers used Google Classroom. We've decided to transition to use Canvas, which is a full learning management system. Basically, it's like Google Classroom, but far more robust, has a lot of other features. So like I stated, there's a live session that's recorded. The teacher can post it in Canvas and a student can go back and watch it at a later time. And the teacher would be able to monitor who's watched which videos, how much time they've spent on activities. So it helps a little bit with the managing the minutes and making sure the students are all on track. We'll also could be using tools like Seesaw. Seesaw is a digital portfolio, so it's a great way for students to showcase their work, and that can be used within Canvas. So everything, Canvas is sort of your home base for everything. Seesaw in general, we use more at the elementary level, but I do know that we have our maker teacher at South Tawa Middle School uses it extensively, so it can be used really at any grade. Flipgrid is a video response tool. Again, will be based out of Canvas. Just a great way to get kids talking and communicating with each other when they can't see each other face to face. HyperDocs is a transition in lesson design. And this is something the teachers will require some training in, which I will be helping facilitate. And basically, it's sort of to get the students to be a little bit more independent learners. So it's sort of if you've heard of a flipped classroom model where they get sort of the direct instruction potentially via video, and then their time with their teacher is actual work time or question and answer time, you can do that really easily with HyperDocs. We also want to move to a project-based learning model where students are doing small group projects that are cross-curricular, meaning they are not just one subject area, so it's not just specific to language arts. And that will require, again, training for the teachers, but we will work on that through this year and the following year. We already have a trainer lined up, so it's something we can easily transition to. Relationships are probably one of the most important things that we need to build if we are not really meeting our students in person. So we want to make sure we have purposeful activities across all grade levels. The relationships can be built in small group instruction, and that would be all virtual. So we'll have virtual meetings, virtual small group instruction, virtual breakout groups, meaning they take a big group. So there's about, last I checked, about 22 of us in here, and you can break the kids up into smaller groups so they can have discussion groups and talk. And that's really helpful for students to get to know each other, as well as the teacher can pop in and make sure that they're staying on track. And we also want to have socialization opportunities. That seems to be the big question, especially for our middle school families, is there going to be clubs? Can they join clubs at the middle school once the middle school goes back? The answer is yes. I had actually a potential student contact me this morning saying he had a club he wanted to start within Elevated. So I'll be working with him on that, which I just think is great. We had families yesterday saying, could we start potential virtual clubs like Dungeons and Dragons? And we just thought those were kind of a great, fun idea to get kids communicating and socializing when it's not possible to be less than 6 feet apart at this point. So the communication methods that both the school and the teachers will use with the students, as well as yourselves, we'll be using email predominantly, video conferencing like Zoom. The district and schools use Aries communication. So whenever you get those blast emails or text messages, one came out last night from Lake Tahoe Unified. That's our system that we use, is Aries Communications. We'll also have parent and student support office hours, meaning we want students and parents to feel comfortable with the technology. So if there's a problem with the tech that we can help solve, then we want to make sure that there's hours in the day, during the week, that you can get online and or call in so that we can support you better. So we don't want the technology to be a barrier for anyone. We'll also create a parent support website with technology tutorials. So if you're more comfortable just spending your time learning how to use some of the technology, then that will be available to you. So one of the questions we had yesterday, which I think is a really good one, is what makes a successful online learner? So persistence is really key. So not giving up easily when something is difficult, effective time management skills. That's a really important one. And for our younger students, that's something parents will definitely need to help support, learning how to be effective time managers. And then we have effective and appropriate communication skills. And of course, the teachers will be working with students on what is effective and appropriate communication. So trying to use more formal English rather than text language when they are communicating with adults. Good online learners are motivated and they are quite independent. So especially for our 6 through 8 kids, they're motivated to learn. They can work independently. And then also from the parent end is having a good study environment. So I currently am in our office. It's a multi-purpose space, but it's also a great space for my kids to come and get a quiet space to work if that's what they feel they need for that day. So that's the end of my presentation. And I will say, I'll stop sharing my screen in just a moment, but if you have questions, you're always welcome to email elevated@ltusd.org. We're trying to get all the questions going to that email address, and we are monitoring it and responding to emails probably in about 12 hours or less at this point. And then yesterday we also sent out an FAQ document, so a frequently asked question document went out yesterday. We will send it out again this morning, probably later this morning, so you have access to that, because we are getting a lot of the same questions. We want to make sure that the answer to the question may be in that document. So we suggest that you review that. And then we'll also share this presentation. So if there's anything else you want, or if you say, you know what, my question wasn't answered, you can submit a question here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. All right.
So we have one question from Emma. The middle school model is more complex due to multiple teachers. When will we know which teachers will be working with Elevated and which are traditional/distance?
We will, I'll probably know that more next week. So I will be reviewing who applied later today and Monday, because the application process closed last night at 5 o'clock. And then we will know who applied and kind of how that falls out.
Very interested in PBL.
Project-based
Will
learning.
that be project-based learning? Will that be implemented early on from Leslie?
It will be implemented this school year, Leslie. It's difficult to say how early on it will be, just because this is a brand new school, so we have a learning curve with our teachers and training. So that's just one of those things that it works so well in a distance learning environment that I think it's really valuable.
What about elective classes from Gennaro?
So elective classes, again, are dependent on staffing. I know we will have some electives. And then I was speaking with the director of secondary yesterday afternoon about music as potentially an elective, because we're not allowed to do music in person at this point anyway. So is there a possibility that we could provide music for elevated? So he and I are going to discuss that more today. Well, I know one of the teachers we have has applied has some electives in his credentials. So it will look like, I need to know who's applied, and we had a lot of applicants right before 5 o'clock yesterday. So I am not up to date, unfortunately, on that.
From Michael, is Elevated a temporary academy, or does LTUSD have a long-term commitment to Elevated?
We have a long-term commitment to Elevated. We've had requests for this type of educational program for many years, and now we feel we have the capacity to actually do it. So it's a long-term commitment. It is not a one-year solution.
From Annalie, can a student be completely asynchronous? We are considering traveling to New Zealand for a few months, and we will be on a different time zone.
And that's something that we could discuss. I do want this to be a flexible program for families. I just want to make sure that if that's what's happening, that we are making sure that your child is still connected and supported social emotionally. But that's something that we can discuss.
Oh, that's the same questions. Elevated. Will accelerated math and ELA be offered?
So this seems to be one of the most popular questions. So I have a feeling that yes, it will be offered, because we have so many families asking for it. And it's just, again, it's dependent on the students who enroll. So I can't say for sure, but because we have so many families, my gut feeling is that yes, we will have sections of accelerated math and ELA.
Okay. From Suzanne, will Maker Lab be offered?
Again, that's dependent on our staffing. So I don't know if that teacher did apply.
Okay. From Anne, will there be potential for students to meet face-to-face with teachers for specialized instruction / therapies at the home-based building?
Yes, yeah, there will.
Okay. From Christy, is the day based on login time, or can a student complete the daily work projects and be done?
So the time is based on both that live time as well as the project time. So if they only complete the project time, they're not going to complete the number of minutes. So even if it's watching a 30-minute video or watching a 15-minute video, that's included in the amount of time that they are working.
From Adriana, will students with an IEP have supportive services?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, keep the questions coming. That's all of them so far.
I think I added a slide and went faster today, and I think I talked more, which is even crazier.
Well, hopefully everybody read the FAQ, and so some of the questions were answers. From Anne, I know you are hiring 12 to 16 teachers. Are you hiring specialists as well, such as reading intervention?
I don't believe we're focused on like a reading intervention teacher at this point, but that's something that we could look at. We feel like we have the need. We are trying to keep the class numbers at about 25, even through 6 through 8, so a little bit lower in that secondary 4 through 8 level, which may help with some of that instructional time in one-on-one, allow teachers some time to do smaller groups.
From Christy, I heard from another parent that grade levels may be mixed. Is that true? Can you explain?
Yeah, so there may be mixed grade levels, and just keep in mind, it's dependent on our numbers. And again, like we're trying to keep it at the student numbers by class at about 25. So dependent on the numbers, there may be blended classes, but also this wouldn't look like a traditional combo class because we can personalize it a lot more being virtual. So where was my thought going there? It wouldn't look like your traditional combo class. I taught a combo class my first year in Tahoe, and it makes it a little more difficult. It's easier to differentiate and teach different content if the kids actually aren't in front of you. So it would be really good.
Is the school schedule generally the same as far as start, end date, holidays, etc.?
Yep. So we follow the Lake Tahoe Unified School District calendar.
How many families have been interested so far, and will you allow for late interest?
So we had 303 families fill out the pre-enrollment survey, which equated to 412 students. What we're doing is later today, another Google form will go out saying, yes, I'm interested, that we're asking those families that pre-enrolled to complete by Monday at noon. And at that point, we'll look at what our numbers are, where they kind of fall out to see where we have openings, and then we'll open it up. We have created a wait list, so if families didn't pre-enroll, but they're definitely really interested, they can email elevated@ltusd.org and say, I'd like to be added to the wait list.
Oh, this is a good one. Michael, is there a district snow day? Does Elevated also?
That was something I was thinking about like at 3 a.m. a couple days ago, but we're all virtual. Do we have to have snow days? So that's something that Diana will need to investigate with CDE to see what they do. If there are, actually, let's talk about that. If you'd make a note of that, because I think I can ask somebody who's outside of Yosemite.
Is attendance based on check-in meetings, from Leslie?
So it's based both on checking the check-in meetings, watching the videos, as well as completing coursework. That was a good question. We haven't had that one.
Okay, from Anne, is there a way to post that Google form on other platforms? There have been families that did not get the email for these meetings. If you were pre-enrolled and you did not get the emails, please email elevated at ltusd.org.
This email went to families that pre-enrolled. We did post the yesterday morning's meeting on YouTube, and families can watch that, and we can add them to the wait list if they are interested after watching the informational.
Yeah, so if you did pre-enroll and you did not get the email me again. I had reached out to, when the bad emails got sent back, I reached out to those families and I got mostly back good emails. There are a couple that didn't respond to me, but I don't know if they're still interested. Julie, all it says is will. I don't know. Okay, from Anne, repost is attendance based on check-in meeting. Yeah, we discussed that.
Yeah, it's not based on just the check-in meeting. It's based on work completion. We can monitor all of that in Canvas, how much they're completing the work, how much time they're spending. So if we're noticing that they're spending 2 minutes on an activity, which really should take 20, then we may have to have a conversation with the family.
Okay, from Suzanne, is there a potential for unique classes being offered that are not offered at South Tahoe Middle School? My child likes the Inspire classes offered, like German studies.
I think at this point, unfortunately, we're limited on what the credentials that our staff holds.
Michelle is saying, hi, Kelly. From Emma, I'm sure this is in the FAQ. However, is this a trimester or yearly commitment?
What did we say, Diana? I know we went back.
We're asking for at least a trimester commitment. On the next Google form, one of the questions is asked if you can commit for the full year, yes, no, or I don't know yet. but.
Actually, you know what? I think we removed that question last night.
Oh, we did, okay.
Yeah.
I
So
think we're
we would
trying
like,
for a trimester.
yeah, we would like families to commit for a year, but I understand there's a lot of things going on. If you are an elementary student or even a middle school student, transferring back is dependent upon availability at the school site. So keep in mind that the 12 to 16 students from Lake Tahoe Unified that are moving to Elevated are moving out of their own school site. So there may not be space available for your child at their home school.
I did get this question in an email yesterday asking about the middle school, but of course, since there's one middle school, you're guaranteed a spot back at the middle school.
Right.
Okay, from Leslie, I am debating between homeschool on my own and Elevated. Flexibility is what we are looking for. Can that happen?
Yeah, I think that it definitely has the possibility of being very flexible. We want to make sure that we're supporting our families, and if you're feeling, we want to provide you with a teacher who, if you're struggling with the content, because I even know, having taught the upper grades, at times there was fifth grade math that I went, okay, I can't remember how I learned this. So we want to make sure that you feel supported, but we can definitely work with you on that.
Is it better for kids to use the school provided computers or home computers? Does it matter? My daughter has some issues with Chromebooks last year.
It doesn't matter. We will provide a Chromebook. Most of the issues that we had, we were able to resolve, that students had. Even my now sixth grader had some issues with his Chromebook. If you have a personal device that you'd like them to use and they feel it would work better, I would feel confident having my child use the Chromebook for this program.
As we talked about a few weeks ago, I was offline the past few weeks, just back. I received the email for this meeting, but not the commitment to enroll email. Can you please send so I can add Alexandra to the list?
Michelle, you're good.
If you could
Michelle's
email
good.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, she did?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk. Michelle, you're good. Don't worry about it. You were always in the back of my mind, so you're good. So Suzanne said, I think we missed one. Diana just checked here. Sounds like you need to see which students sign up and then look at the classes they asked for, like Accelerate, to see what will be offered. Yes, we will need to do that.
Oh, here. Is there any possibility that the district can provide appropriate furniture, i.e., and student size desk and chair?
Well, anything is possible, Anne. So let me investigate a little bit further and see where we are on things and furniture and what we have potentially in storage.
Are the online programs compatible with Mac computers?
Yep, everything is web-based, so it doesn't matter what kind of device you're on.
If my children commit to a trimester and choose to go back to school, but their home school is not available, can they be offered a spot at another elementary school?
Yeah.
Do they have a PE class, or can that be optional?
So we do have required minutes by the state of California, but the number of minutes, they've eliminated the number of minutes for PE for 2020-21 school year, kind of like they adjusted the instructional minutes for regular classes. And again, it's kind of dependent on staffing. We need to make sure we're providing some PE activities available. We had a question yesterday. A parent said their child attended Escobar. Could that count as part of their PE? So we just need to do a little more investigation on what we are required to do for a virtual school.
Kind of the same question. Our son spends every 3 minutes skiing and mountain biking. Will that count?
We'll have to do some investigation.
Will we be able to work with the college for field trips, etc.? Elizabeth working with Elevated as well as the rest of the district?
Yeah, we could be, once things a little open up a little bit more, we could work on field trips. I know, Anne, that's something we talked about in the reopening committee meetings, is having small group field trips, meaning 5 to 6 kids, or meetups, weekly meetups, if that's what families are interested in. We just need to be careful at this point because of COVID-19. And then which Elizabeth are you talking about? We have several.
Okay, yeah, Anne, pop that in, which Elizabeth you're referring to. And do we know what is the current enrollment? Not yet.
No, we don't know yet. We had 412 students pre-enroll, but I do know, in talking to one family, um, the parent had signed up both her children, even though she was only really considering it for one of them. So that would take us right down to 411. Dual enrollment coordinator. We can get her to work with us. Elizabeth. Okay, now I know who you're talking about. That makes sense. Reopening. Yeah, gotcha.
Ludin. Emma, I don't understand that.
I think it's going
Is
directly to
that,
you.
is that Elizabeth's last name?
Yes, yeah.
Chiming in.
And then I think you may be getting stuff that's not going to everyone. So Michael asked, are the emails allowing us to commit to Elevated coming today, or should I already have it? It will come later this morning. You will get it today. What is a trimester? So a trimester is just a 12-week period of time. So when school starts on August 31st, that at this point is our first day of school. That the first trimester runs through Thanksgiving break, basically. So it's a 12-week chunk of time.
Will temporary or short-term independent study be possible, like with the traditional school? We travel a lot and not always places with internet connection.
Unfortunately, while all the schools are in distance learning, we are not doing short-term independent study.
Will there be any out-of-pocket costs anticipated for supplies or activities through Elevated?
I don't foresee that, unless there's things that, I was thinking I wanted to get my son his own desk. That would be my own choice, though. He could continue to work here in the office or at our kitchen table and be absolutely fine.
I wanted my daughter to take Spanish in the middle school. Is this one of the classes that is based on teacher availability?
It is, and that is another highly requested thing, so I am cautiously optimistic that we will be able to offer that. There was also a lot of discussion last night in the meeting last night, and I don't know, Hanaro, if your child is in the 2A immersion program, but for the 2A immersion middle school students, there is a heritage Spanish class offered at the college that we could potentially leverage and have students take to continue their Spanish instruction.
Would you benefit from large enrollment? What is staffing ratio?
When I was talking to Dr. Cutler, the new superintendent, yesterday, he was basically telling me, as far as I'm concerned, Elevated is full and it's closed based on that 412 number. But we will be able to adjust by grade level. I know that there are some grade levels that have more openings than others. So that's something we just need to look at by grade. I don't think there's a benefit. The staffing ratio is about 25 to 1, so 25 teachers to 1 student.
No.
What?
Other way around.
What? Oh, yeah, 25. No, 1 teacher, 25 kids. Thank you. It's morning. It's just past 8 o'clock.
Suzanne, I just want to say thank you for offering this school and all of your hard work. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
From Anne, Elizabeth London. I believe Amber Golagoski has put together a student tutor program with the college too.
Cool. And that was a question too, just I'll hit on it since you brought up tutoring. Somebody asked, is there a possibility of us being able to provide tutoring for students if needed? And I think that's a definite possibility. We'd work with the college on that. Did you see a question from Kim, Diana?
Yeah. I am moving from a different district. Where should my children's records be sent?
That's a you question.
Oh.
Once we probably do the actual enrollment, they would come to the district office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, once enrollment, official enrollment is open, Kim, if you could email Elevated at LTUSD, I think I might be able to address that. Okay. From Jennifer, can children start traditional school and then transfer to Elevate? How would that work?
It would be pretty difficult, honestly, to start with traditional school, then transfer into Elevate. It's honestly easier to do the opposite. But we can't say no. We're trying to encourage families to transfer at the trimester mark, so you're not transferring just sort of in the middle. So, and I see the next question about IEP for speech delay. I don't know what therapist we will have assigned to for speech at Elevated, so it potentially may be a different therapist.
Can there be student and or parent-led enrichment classes, clubs? Will fingerprinting be required by parents?
Yeah, there can be, and yes, fingerprinting would need to be required.
Any idea on 8th grade enrollment? Could it continue to high school?
Yeah, so our goal with Elevated is to grow the school one grade level every year. So just knowing this was our first year rolling out an 100% digital learning school or virtual school, we wanted to stick with sort of a smaller subsection, and then there is a very possible it could grow to 9th grade. The 8th grade enrollment was pretty solid, so we have enough for an 8th grade class.
Let's see, I don't want to. Will STMS students continue with SBG, and will elementary students move to this type of grading as well? Oh, standards-based grading.
Yeah, so yes, STMS students would continue with standards-based grading. I would love to see elementary. We just have to realize we're as teachers, or there's a lot of transition this first year. So I would love to see elementary move that direction as well. And if we could be the pilot of that, I think would be a great place to start. One of our board members keeps calling us not a think tank. That was the word for yesterday. I can't remember what the word is. Like, we could try everything new, which I think that's kind of fun. So yeah, I agree with you. What are the similarities to ILA? I see them actually as really separate programs. ILA is really a homeschool program where you're meeting with the teacher once a week to just check progress and check work. Whereas Elevated, the teachers are really working with your child side by side. And if you need support, they're supporting you as well. Diana, do you want to chime in on any other differences or similarities?
I just want to note that on that FAQ that we sent out, there's also a chart comparing ILA to Elevated. So yeah, what you said is correct. But if you want to check that FAQ, it might answer some more questions for you.
Yeah.
Would children be meeting up with teachers from out local school?
Probably our local school.
Oh, our local.
Typos, I do that one. Yeah, so all the teachers from Elevated are from Lake Tahoe Unified School District.
Mm-hmm.
And then dedicated trained substitute pool. So that is something I need to start working on. I'm trying to get through Tuesday because I have a couple people in mind, including retirees and some subs who are really tech savvy that we can highly train, so that if you have to go out, then we can have somebody who can just step in your place as a teacher. Michelle, we will send that to you. I have your email. Diana, would you make a note of that so when I get into the office, we can do that? And then we'll just send Michelle everything.
Okay.
Like she's a pre-enrolled, because she is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I talked to her weeks ago.
Okay.
Any other questions for us?
If our student is unable to log in due to being out of town, is there a consequence to not logging in since there is no short-term independent study?
It's basically an absence. Kind of the easiest way to put it.
When the ball gets rolling on this, when do you anticipate Elevated to begin?
So it'll follow the school district calendar. The first day of school at this point is August 31st. So that would be the first day of school. We had a discussion yesterday about Chromebook handout, and I said we'd hand them out the first week, and they said, but how do we start school? It was kind of a light bulb moment for me that we'll be working on how we're going to distribute devices probably the week before school starts so that our students can actually start on week 1. And then I'm seeing how many 7th graders. We have a solid 7th grade group. Solid.
Mhm. Will Elevated have a school instructional assistant?
I'm not sure if we've gotten that far yet. Possibly.
How many absences are allowed for a 6th grader?
Do we have a number? I mean, we
I
can't
don't
really
know if we have
say. We want students' attendance to stay above 90%. So that's, or 95%, which is,
95%.
so that's 9 days a year,
Mhm.
ideally, or less than.
Yeah. Would you please give us an idea of how weekly check-in will look like? Multiple teachers for middle schoolers.
So they wouldn't be checking in with every teacher every single day. They would have designated days that they would check in with certain teachers. And we'll share the link to the slides that I showed earlier. So if you didn't see those, that may give you a better idea of like, I would check in with this teacher for math on this day, history on this day. So that's sort of how we could do it.
Have parents shown interest in having a communication group?
Yeah. There's been a lot of interest in parents wanting to volunteer and do different clubs and getting kids together and kind of creating sort of like what traditional homeschool does, where it's a small group and kids meet up and families meet up. There's been a lot of interest in that.
Is there a projected time frame for phase 1 distance learning and traditional school? How is it different from Elevate?
So Elevated will always be a virtual school, and it will run for the whole school year and years to come as a virtual school. The projected time frame for phase 1 distance learning at traditional school right now is a 6-week commitment of distance, and then at the 4-week mark, they're going to evaluate the health and safety situation. So, and then make a decision on after that.
Will sex ed be taught in Elevated for 6th grade?
It's actually a 7th grade standard, so it would be taught in 7th grade.
Is missing the check-in be considered a missed day? Can we choose on what day we want to check in?
Not necessarily. So the days, so it's not just with middle school, it's not just one day. So with ILA, there's a weekly check-in and the parent is doing a majority of the teaching and they're just doing a check-in with the teacher to make sure they're on track. With Elevated, it is giving parents the opportunity to have a credentialed teacher working with their child, so they are not required to do all of the teaching. And missing a check-in is not considered a missed day. Basically, what we can do is they can watch the video. If there's a recording, they can watch it later. The teacher can monitor their progress through Canvas, which is the learning management system, so that they can monitor how much time they're spending and that they're meeting the required minutes. Questions are slowing down.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Well, I'll still be the same base. Yes, it will be the home base, but I found out earlier this week that there's an internet issue at Al Tahoe right now, which poses a problem for an online school. But they're working on that with AT&T. So currently, we will probably be Diana and I will be staying at the district office. because we need to make sure we have working internet. So, but yes, it will still be the home base.
I could use a little clarification regarding geographic location. Some questions seem to allude to having to be in district to log into classes. I mean, physically in district territory.
No, you don't need
No.
to. Mm-mm.
After 6 weeks of traditional school, phase 1, if the school opens up, but I do not feel comfortable sending my kids there, can they join Elevate if there is room?
What did we decide on that, Diana?
I don't know what we decided.
I don't know either.
Um,
I think if there's room, I think that's possible. But I think if you're concerned that you may not feel comfortable at the 6 week mark, I would say enroll in Elevated and then make a trimester decision like in November. That would be, as a parent, that would be probably how I would look at it. If you're worried that 6 weeks from now, it's not going to be, well, it's more than that, 8 weeks from now.
Oh, now I got to scroll up. I understand the required minutes regarding videos for certain subjects, but regarding math, will they be required to spend X time on a math program, or will it be X number of problems to complete, similar with science or other subjects?
That's dependent on the teacher. I'm not a big fan of time. I know that my now sixth grader, he figured out how to work Alex. To his teacher initially said that, actually I think it was in fourth grade, was like, you need to spend 20 minutes on Alex every day. And he figured out real quick he could just open up Alex and then go to another tab and waste 20 minutes. And so instead and I talked to her about it, and they changed it to, you need to complete this number of topics per day. Which he could complete in significantly less than 20 minutes. So it was just all silliness, but it's dependent on what the teacher assigns.
From Annalie, the 4 hours of required minutes for 8th grade, does the student need to be connected to Canvas for those minutes, or can the student spend those minutes learning outside separate from the computer?
They can be separate from learning from the computer, and we would expect that there would be a balance between online and offline time. The teacher will be evaluating how much time a student will be, how much time they would expect a student to complete, and when they turn it in, that's how we get to that average number of minutes.
From Leslie, this seems great. Interested in how the idea for this happened.
Part of it is related to COVID-19 and families saying they were not comfortable coming back to school. But we have had the request for a fully virtual school for the last several years. I think the interest has just sort of skyrocketed because of COVID-19.
Okay. Will Elevated be required to use the adopted district curriculum, or can other curriculums be used? For example, does the elementary school have to use Wonders /
Maravillas.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, we need to use the adopted district curriculum. I had a question about an interested teacher, and she was asking how many of the online programs or which programs do the students have to use of the online programs. And I said, it's not which, it's really how we're using it. And I would think that using Wonders Maravillas we would be using it differently. So we can use the resources in the curriculum, but it would look different than it would at a brick and mortar school. I just think this is a really exciting opportunity to create something really just new and very student-based and student-centric and exciting for families and kids and all that. So I love the possibilities with it. Yes. And yeah. Absolutely. And actually I've had several teachers who have expressed interest that I did find out were going to apply, that said ask for the recording, which is why we recorded yesterday morning. And I sent that out to 5 or 6 teachers yesterday, I believe. Maybe not that many. I don't remember who I sent it to. And really, and the goal is to plan this. I don't want to, I had a teacher who applied, who had asked me, like, are you planning all of this? And I was like, well, I'm doing like a framework, but I really want this to be built with the teachers and a lot of input. You guys are the experts and went through it with kids last year, know what works best. So there's going to be a lot of work that we do as a team. Christy, how do you access the recording? It is on the district's YouTube channel. And I believe that was linked in the follow-up email or the email that went out.
Yeah, the same email that went out with the links to these meetings has the link to the district's YouTube page where you can find the pre-recorded. Okay. Let's see. I don't want to skip any. There's a couple more. Once the school opens up, would children enrolled in Elevated be facing restricted access to them?
No, it's all based on if you wanted to re-enroll your student in one of our traditional schools, it's based on availability at the class level. Thank you, Michelle. I'm excited to do class lists get mailed out to students after we put everybody in classes. So that will be.
Well, traditional schools, they're posted, Friday afternoon before the first day of school. So I don't know when we will post them.
You were probably going to want to try to do it earlier because I know if we have families wanting to try to create pods where students are working in small groups together, that they may want to know prior to that. So we will do our best to get them out as early as possible. So, and I just want to let you know, I know a couple people have fallen off here or dropped off, but the form that you get today is basically saying, yes, I do want to enroll, but it does not remove you if you change your mind before you actually do the Aries enrollment. That's okay. We're just trying to get more solid numbers so we can work on our staffing. All right, if we don't have any more questions, then we may end the meeting. I'm going to stop. Well, I don't want to stop recording probably till we're done. A lot of dead air at the end.
From the iPhone, didn't quite understand your answer. Was that to the student list question?
No, that one was to, would students enrolled in Elevated be facing restricted access to them? Are you talking about restricted access to the schools or to other students? We can't restrict kids from seeing each other. So if you're talking about students, I think I need a little more clarification. Thanks, Christy. And I agree with you. Students are set to meet up with teachers, but they are at school in a classroom. Once schools reopen, so I'm not sure if you've seen the phases that they go through for a traditional school. So right now they're in distance learning, and then they go to a hybrid model, and then they go back to more of a traditional school. That hybrid model, and this is again just for our traditional schools, they're starting in distance learning for the first 6 weeks, and let's say after 6 weeks they go back to, it goes to a hybrid model. The kids will be put in smaller groups, so half the kids will attend on certain days and the other half will attend on other days. And then there's distance learning on those days they're not in the classroom, and then they do another 6-week evaluation, and then if everything continues to improve, then they move back to a traditional school model where all the students attend with social distancing as much as possible. I'm hoping that answered your question. And if it didn't, I may have you send an email to elevated@ltusd.org and include your phone number. And then either Diana or Jenny Goldstein can call you back and kind of talk it through. It might be easier to do over the phone. All right. I think I'm going to shut it down just because I think we're wrapping up. I got to run to the high school for a meeting. So thank you so much. Thanks, Kim. I hope everyone has a great day, and be on the lookout for that email that will come out later this morning. And if you're interested, we'd love to have you and join our new school. It'll be pretty exciting for school first year. So yeah, if there's anything else, feel free to reach out to elevated@ltusd.org and we will get back to you. So have a great day, and I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting.